The distant howl of orbital artillery echoed through the concrete corridors of Outpost Sable. Vesia's fox-like ears twitched beneath her tactical hood, cybernetic implants filtering the cacophony into useful data. 17 plasma rounds remained in her sidearm, precisely the number her mission parameters required. One for each vital system in a human commander's body. Her target, Henry Thorne, resistance leader and tactical genius who had somehow held this desert outpost on Tyrios against the Dominion's superior forces for 63 days. An impossibility that demanded correction. Vesia moved silently through the shadows, her cybernetically enhanced limbs absorbing each footfall. Smoke hung in the air, carrying the distinct scent of burnt circuitry and human fear. The outpost was dying. Emergency lights strobed crimson warnings across cracked walls, and the distant screams of wounded personnel created a macabre soundtrack to her hunt. She flexed her left hand, watching as the cybernetic filaments beneath her skin glowed faintly blue, tracing the augmented strength and reflexes the Dominion had gifted her. Born human, rebuilt as something more efficient, a perfect vessel for their will. Tonight, that will demanded Henry Thorne's execution. 3 floors below in the command center, Henry Thorne pressed his palms against the holographic display, watching as red indicators bloomed across the outpost's schematics. His weathered face, marked by a jagged scar across his right cheek, remained impassive despite the chaos. At 42, he had seen too many desperate stands to show fear now. "Commander," Lieutenant Marcus Kane's voice broke through his concentration. "Evacuation transports are at 70% capacity. The civilians will be clear in 17 minutes. Henry nodded without looking up. "And our other guest?" Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "Perimeter sensors confirm a Dominion infiltrator. Single operative, heavy augmentation signature. Almost certainly an assassin." "Not almost. Marcus. Certainly." Henry's fingers traced the holographic representation of the outpost's upper levels. "They've sent her for me. Sir, with all due respect, we should evacuate you immediately. The Resistance can't afford to lose you." Henry finally looked up, his steel-gray eyes meeting his lieutenant's concerned gaze. "What we can't afford is to miss this opportunity. Prometheus is ready. We just need the final data points." "It's too risky," Marcus protested. "We're talking about a Dominion assassin, likely cybernetically superior to anything we've faced." Henry's expression hardened. "Which is precisely why we need her. Prometheus requires 17 distinct neural cybernetic response samples. 17 shots, 17 data points. You're using yourself as bait," Marcus stated flatly. "I'm using myself as a research tool," Henry corrected, pulling up another display showing a complex neural network overlay. "Dr. Elena Vasquez will be monitoring my vitals remotely. If things go too far, you have my authorization to execute Protocol Sundown." Marcus's jaw tightened. "I don't like it." "You don't have to like it," Henry replied, checking the charge on his personal sidearm. "You just have to be ready when I give the signal." On the upper level, Vesia paused at an intersection, her enhanced senses detecting movement ahead. 2 human soldiers, standard resistance gear, moving hurriedly away from her position. She remained motionless, becoming one with the shadows until they passed. No unnecessary kills, that was protocol. Only the target mattered. Her internal display highlighted a maintenance shaft that would bypass 3 security checkpoints. The schematics of Outpost Sable had been meticulously uploaded to her neural interface before deployment. Every corridor, every room, every potential ambush point, all accessible with a thought. As she slipped into the narrow shaft, Vesia experienced a momentary glitch in her neural feed, a flash of unexpected data, a face, a memory. A small human child with wide eyes, staring up at her. The image vanished as quickly as it had appeared, replaced by the cold efficiency of her mission parameters. 17 rounds, 1 target, no witnesses. Vesia dismissed the anomaly. Cybernetic systems occasionally integrated random memory fragments during high-stress operations. The Dominion technicians would purge any corrupted data upon her return. For now, The mission was all that mattered. In the command center, Henry finished encoding the final protocols for Project Prometheus. Each keystroke potentially his last, yet his hands remained steady. Years of fighting the Dominion had taught him that fear was a luxury resistance commanders couldn't afford. Aegis. He addressed the outpost's strategic AI system. Run final diagnostics on Prometheus protocols. The holographic interface pulsed blue. Prometheus parameters at 93% readiness. Commander. Awaiting neural response samples for completion. And our guest's current position? A three-dimensional map of the outpost appeared, with a single red dot moving methodically through the maintenance tunnels. Infiltrator is proceeding according to projected path B. Estimated time to command center, 7 minutes. Henry nodded. Perfect. Aegis, initiate Protocol Lighthouse. Protocol Lighthouse initiated. The AI confirmed as emergency lighting throughout the outpost dimmed to near darkness, leaving only faint guide lights along the floor. Command center isolated, all personnel redirected to evacuation zones. Henry took a deep breath and moved to the center of the room, positioning himself precisely where the assassin would emerge. He removed his tactical jacket, leaving only a simple gray shirt. Easier for her to identify her target. Easier for the sensors embedded in his skin to collect the necessary data. Sir. Marcus's voice came through his earpiece. Final transport is ready. Dr. Vasquez is in position to monitor. Are you certain about this? Some risks are worth taking, old friend. Henry replied. Remember, no matter what happens, Prometheus must be completed. The communication line went silent. Henry was alone now, waiting for death to arrive in the form of a Dominion assassin. He closed his eyes briefly, centering himself. Everything had led to this moment, years of resistance, countless battles, the slow development of Project Prometheus. If his theory was correct, this night could change the course of the war. If he was wrong, at least his death would serve a purpose. Vesia emerged from the maintenance shaft into a darkened corridor. Her enhanced vision adjusted instantly, painting the world in shades of blue and green. The command center was just ahead, its reinforced doors standing open, an obvious invitation. Too obvious. Her tactical subroutines flagged the scenario as a potential trap, calculating a 97% probability of ambush. Yet her mission parameters were absolute. Eliminate Henry Thorne regardless of risk assessment. She paused, processing the conflicting data. The Dominion had not programmed her for hesitation. Yet something, a faint echo of her former human self perhaps, urged caution. Again, that strange memory fragment flickered across her neural interface. A child's face, now accompanied by a voice. Why do your eyes glow blue, Miss Vesia? The memory dissolved as quickly as it had formed. Vesia forced her focus back to the mission. 17 rounds, 1 target. The open door was irrelevant, trap or not. She would complete her objective. She moved forward, plasma pistol raised. The command center beyond was dimly lit, consoles blinking with emergency protocols. In the center of the room stood a solitary figure, back turned to her, seemingly absorbed in a holographic display. Henry Thorne, target acquired. Without hesitation, Vesia fired her first shot. The plasma bolt streaked through the air, striking Henry in the upper right shoulder. He staggered but didn't fall, turning slowly to face her as blood blossomed across his gray shirt. I was beginning to think you wouldn't come, he said, his voice remarkably steady for a man who had just been shot. Vesia said nothing, adjusting her aim. The second shot hit him in the left thigh. Again. He remained standing, though he leaned heavily against a nearby console. 2 shots, Henry noted, almost clinically. 15 more to go, if I've calculated correctly. Something wasn't right. Targets didn't speak with such calm after taking plasma rounds. They certainly didn't count the shots. Vesia's tactical analysis subroutines began processing this anomaly even as she fired a third time, striking him in the right forearm. Henry winced but maintained eye contact. 3. You're very precise. The Dominion trains its assassins well. Why aren't you dead? Vesia found herself asking, the words emerging unbidden from her throat. Speaking to targets wasn't protocol. A thin smile crossed Henry's face despite the obvious pain. Disappointed? Or curious? The fourth shot hit him in the abdomen. He doubled over momentarily before straightening again, blood now flowing freely from multiple wounds. 4, he counted. Something stirred within Vesia, an emotion her cybernetic systems couldn't immediately categorize. Confusion? Admiration? She fired again, and again, and again. Shots 5, 6, and 7 struck with surgical precision, yet Henry Thorne remained conscious, remained standing, remained watching her with those penetrating gray eyes. "What are you?" she demanded, a tremor in her voice that her Dominion handlers would have found unacceptable. "Just a man," Henry replied, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. A man with a purpose. Vesia felt her cybernetic implants heating slightly, an unusual response indicating heightened neural activity. Something about this human was affecting her systems. With each shot that failed to kill him, something shifted in her programmed certainty. The 8th shot caught him in the shoulder. The 9th grazed his neck. The 10th hit his side. Still, Henry Thorne stood, his eyes never leaving hers, even as his body should have been failing. 10, he counted, voice weaker but still determined. "You're doing well. Better than I expected." "Stop talking," Vesia commanded, firing again. The 11th shot hit him in the chest, dangerously close to his heart. Finally, he fell to one knee, yet his eyes remained clear, focused. "Why fight so hard?" she asked. Another unauthorized question slipping past her programming. "The Dominion will prevail. Resistance is futile, especially for unaugmented humans." Henry coughed, blood spattering the floor. "Is that what they told you? What they programmed you to believe?" He looked up at her, and despite his wounds, there was strength in his gaze. "Tell me, assassin, do you ever question your orders?" The 12th shot hit his other shoulder in response. "Questioning is inefficient," Vesia stated, but the words felt hollow, pre-programmed. "Is it?" Henry asked. "Or is it the beginning of freedom?" Another memory fragment surged through Vesia's neural interface, stronger this time, more persistent. The child again. But now Vesia could see more of the scene. A small settlement on an outer colony. Before the Dominion had recruited her. The child was offering her a flower, a simple violet bloom that somehow had survived the harsh environment. 13. Henry counted as another plasma bolt struck him. He was barely upright now, supported only by his grip on the console edge. 4 more, you can do it. Why was he encouraging her to kill him? And why did each shot fill her with an increasing sense of wrongness? Her mission parameters remained unchanged, yet executing them had become strangely difficult. The 14th shot missed, the first failure in her otherwise perfect performance. The plasma bolt struck the console behind Henry, sending sparks cascading across the command center floor. "You're hesitating," Henry observed, his breathing labored. "Good." "I don't hesitate," Vesia insisted, correcting her aim. The 15th shot hit its mark, striking Henry's already wounded thigh. He collapsed fully now, sitting on the floor, back against the damaged console. Blood pooled beneath him, yet somehow his eyes remained alert, watching her. 2 more, he whispered. Vesia took a step closer, then another. Her pistol remained trained on his head, a killing shot that would end this strange encounter. Yet her finger hesitated on the trigger. The memory fragments were coming faster now, bleeding into her conscious thoughts. The child with the flower, a small home with a garden, a life before the Dominion, before the cybernetics, before she became a weapon. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice barely audible. "I'm the man you were sent to kill." Henry replied simply. But the more important question is, who are you? Not what the Dominion made you, but who you were before. Who you could be again. The 16th shot struck the floor beside him, A deliberate miss. Vesia felt her cybernetic systems struggling to maintain control, to force her compliance with her programming. One shot remained, one final execution to complete her perfect record of service to the Dominion. "You don't have to do this," Henry said, his voice growing weaker with each word. "You can choose." "Choice is inefficient," Vesia responded automatically, but even to her own ears, the words sounded unconvincing. Henry smiled faintly. "Freedom always is." Vesia's hand trembled, an impossibility for her precision-engineered cybernetic limbs. The final shot discharged, striking the wall above Henry's head. A clear miss. A clear defiance of her programming. Alarms blared suddenly throughout the command center. Red emergency lights flashed as the outpost's AI announced, "Project Prometheus activation sequence initiated. Neural response collection complete." Henry's eyes never left Vesia's face as he pulled a small device from his pocket and pressed a sequence of buttons. 17 shots, he whispered. 17 data points. "Thank you." Vesia? Before she could respond, pain unlike anything she had ever experienced surged through her cybernetic systems. Every neural implant, every augmentation the Dominion had forced upon her seemed to burn with white-hot intensity. Vesia fell to her knees, screaming as her neural interface flooded with contradictory commands and cascading system failures. Through the haze of agony, she heard Henry speaking to someone over a communication device. "Marcus, it worked. All 17 neural responses captured. Tell Dr. Vasquez to begin the final compilation. Prometheus is ready." Vesia's vision blurred, the world dissolving into fractured light and darkness. The last thing she saw before consciousness fled was Henry Thorne, bleeding from 17 wounds that should have killed him, crawling toward her collapsed form. "Hold on," his voice reached her as if from a great distance. "This will hurt, but it will free you." Then nothing but darkness. Whir. Consciousness returned gradually, fragmented and disorienting. Vesia's neural systems rebooted in irregular pulses, each bringing a scattered piece of awareness. She was lying on a medical bed. Restraint secured her limbs. The familiar weight of her cybernetic enhancements felt different, changed somehow. A face swam into view above her, a woman with dark hair streaked with gray, intense eyes studying her with scientific curiosity. "She's regaining consciousness," the woman announced, neural patterns stabilizing. Another figure moved into Vesia's limited field of vision. Henry Thorne, his torso and limbs heavily bandaged, but somehow alive despite the 17 plasma wounds she had inflicted. "How do you feel?" he asked, his voice gentle but cautious. Vesia tried to respond but found her vocal systems unresponsive. A strange sensation flooded her awareness, panic, but unfiltered by the usual Dominion emotional suppressors. Raw, human panic. "What did you do to me?" she finally managed, her voice raspy and unfamiliar. "We freed you," the woman beside Henry answered. "I'm Dr. Elena Vasquez. I've spent the last 7 years developing a method to reverse the Dominion's cybernetic control protocols." Memories crashed through Vesia's mind, her mission, the 17 shots. Henry's strange behavior, the sudden pain. "Project Prometheus," she whispered. Henry nodded, wincing slightly as the movement pulled at his wounds. "The Dominion's greatest strength is also its greatest weakness. Their cybernetic control systems follow predictable neural pathways. We needed precise data on how those pathways respond to emotional stimuli during combat situations." "You used yourself as bait," Vesia stated, the tactical brilliance of the plan becoming clear despite her confusion. "You let me shoot you 17 times. Each shot provided a unique neural response pattern," Dr. Vasquez explained, checking readings on a nearby monitor. Aggression, confusion, hesitation, compassion. The full spectrum of combat emotions filtered through the Dominion's control algorithms. "With those patterns," Henry continued, "we could create Prometheus, a counter-signal that disrupts the neural pathways the Dominion uses to control its soldiers. It doesn't destroy your cybernetics. It just gives you back control of them." Vicia struggled to process this information. Her internal diagnostic systems were reporting massive configuration changes throughout her neural network. Dominion control protocols were offline, yet her enhancements remained functional. It was as if a wall had been removed from her mind, a wall she hadn't even known existed. "Why me?" she asked finally. Henry's expression softened. "Because your file showed anomalies, hesitations in previous missions, micro-deviations from protocol, signs that the real you was still in there, fighting to get out. We've been monitoring Dominion communication channels," Dr. Vasquez added. "You were considered their most effective assassin, but scheduled for recalibration after your return from this mission. They were worried about you." "Vesia?" The restraints around Vesia's wrists suddenly released with a mechanical click. She sat up slowly, expecting her combat subroutines to activate automatically at this opportunity. Instead, she felt choice. The ability to decide her next action rather than having it dictated by programming. "The Dominion fleet," she said suddenly, accessing her tactical databases. "They're positioning for a full-scale assault on this system. My mission was just the prelude." Henry nodded grimly. "We know. That's the other part of Project Prometheus. Your neural data doesn't just free you, it gives us a weapon against their entire cybernetic army." "Impossible," Vesia stated. "Dominion ships are shielded against signal intrusion, not against a signal transmitted through their own communication network," Dr. Vasquez countered. "Using the frequency patterns we harvested from your neural responses, we can piggyback Prometheus onto the Dominion's own command broadcasts." Henry moved to a nearby console, bringing up a tactical display of the approaching Dominion fleet. "But we need your help, Vesia. The signal needs to be precisely calibrated to each class of cybernetic implant. You know the Dominion systems better than anyone." Vesia stared at her hands, the hands that had fired 17 plasma bolts at the man now asking for her help. The hands that had executed countless missions for the Empire that had stolen her humanity. With her newfound freedom came the crushing weight of those memories, no longer filtered through Dominion emotional suppressors. "Why would you trust me?" she asked quietly. "Because you made a choice." Henry replied simply. "When it mattered most, you chose not to kill me. That wasn't a malfunction. It was you breaking through." Vesia looked up, meeting his eyes. "You nearly died to prove a point." A small smile crossed Henry's face. "To save countless lives, including yours. Worth the risk, I'd say." Dr. Vasquez approached with a handheld medical scanner. "Your cybernetic systems have stabilized under your control. How does it feel?" Vesia considered the question. The constant background noise of Dominion commands was gone, replaced by silence, choice, possibility. "Strange," she admitted. "Empty and full at the same time." "That's freedom," Henry said. "Terrifying and beautiful." An alarm sounded, and Lieutenant Marcus Kane's voice came through the communication system. "Commander, Dominion fleet has entered orbital range. Preliminary bombardment commencing in 3 minutes." Henry looked at Vesia, his expression serious. "We're out of time. Will you help us?" Vesia stood from the medical bed, testing her balance, feeling the strange new sensation of commanding her own cybernetic systems rather than being commanded by them. Memories continued to surface. Her life before the Dominion, the people she had killed under their control, and the 17 shots that had somehow led to this moment of choice. "Yes," she decided, "I will help you." The Auxiliary Command Center hummed with urgent activity as Resistance personnel prepared for the impending Dominion assault. Vesia stood before a specialized console, her fingers dancing across the interface as she input complex cybernetic protocols. Her fox-like ears, once a symbol of Dominion enhancement, now twitched with her own anxiety and concentration. Their primary battlecruiser uses Nexus 7 control systems, she explained as Henry and Dr. Vasquez watched her work. The infantry dropships use older Nexus 5 variants. We'll need to split the Prometheus signal into 7 distinct frequency bands to affect all their forces. Dr. Vasquez nodded, making adjustments to her own console. The neural response patterns should adapt automatically to each variant, but will need to boost the signal strength to penetrate their shielding. Lieutenant Marcus Kane entered the command center, his expression grim as he approached Henry. "Sir, evacuation is complete. All non-essential personnel are clear of the outpost. Dominion ships have established geosynchronous orbit directly above us." "Exactly as expected," Henry replied, studying the tactical display. Despite his bandaged wounds and the pain evident in his movements, his mind remained sharp, focused on the battle ahead. "They want to make an example of us. A precision strike rather than planetary bombardment." "They'll deploy ground forces first," Vesia added without looking up from her work. "Standard Dominion protocol. Secure any valuable intelligence before destruction." Marcus eyed Vesia suspiciously. "And we're certain she's not still working for them. This could all be an elaborate trap." "I trust her," Henry said firmly, ending the discussion. "How long until Prometheus is ready?" "Final calibrations complete in 3 minutes," Dr. Vasquez reported. "But we'll need a direct link to their communication network to transmit the signal." Vesia paused her work, turning to face the others. "I can provide that link. My cybernetic systems are still recognized by Dominion networks. I can initiate a priority uplink request that will open a channel directly to their command frequency." "That would put you at risk," Henry pointed out. "Once they detect unauthorized access, they'll attempt to reassert control over your systems." "I am aware of the risk," Vesia replied, a hint of her former coldness returning to her voice. "It is my choice to take it." The outpost shuddered as the first orbital strikes hit the surrounding desert. Sand and debris rained against the reinforced windows of the command center. "They're clearing a landing zone," Marcus observed. "Dropships will be next." Henry moved to Vesia's side, studying the complex cybernetic code she had written. "Once we activate Prometheus, what happens to the Dominion forces? Those with extensive cybernetic modifications like mine will experience complete neural reset." Vesia explained. "Their systems will reboot under their own control rather than Dominion protocols. Those with minimal enhancements will likely experience temporary disorientation." "And the ships?" Marcus asked. "Dominion vessels require cybernetic pilots neurally linked to the navigation systems," Vesia replied. "When those links fail, the fleet becomes disabled." Henry finished, understanding dawning in his eyes. "At least temporarily." Another impact rocked the outpost. Closer this time, emergency lights flickered as power systems struggled to compensate. "Incoming transmission," the Aegis AI announced. "Dominion command frequency." "Put it through," Henry ordered. A holographic projection appeared in the center of the command center, a figure in ornate Dominion military regalia, face partially obscured by cybernetic implants that extended from temple to jaw on the right side. "Commander Henry Thorne," the figure spoke, voice modulated to an unnaturally perfect pitch. "I am Admiral Vex of the Dominion 7th Fleet. Your resistance has been noted for its unusual effectiveness. Surrender now, and I will consider allowing your personnel to live as cybernetic conscripts rather than executing them outright." Henry stepped forward, facing the projection calmly despite his injured state. "Admiral Vex, your offer is noted and declined. However, I have a counter-proposal." The Admiral's expression registered mild surprise. "You are in no position to negotiate, Commander." "On the contrary," Henry replied. "I think you'll find my terms quite compelling." He nodded to Dr. Vasquez, who activated a secondary display showing the complex neural patterns they had harvested from Vesia's responses. "What is this?" Admiral Vex demanded, visible recognition and alarm crossing his partially mechanical face. "This," Henry said, "is Project Prometheus, the end of Dominion control over its cybernetic forces." The Admiral's eyes narrowed, focusing past Henry to where Vesia stood at her console. "Unit V-37, he addressed her directly. "You have malfunctioned. Return to your ship immediately for recalibration." Vicia felt the ghost of her former programming stir at the direct command, but it held no power over her now. "My name is Vesia," she replied steadily, "and I no longer accept your commands." "Impossible," the Admiral hissed. "Your cybernetic loyalty protocols are hardwired. You cannot." "She can," Dr. Vasquez interrupted, "and soon. So will every cybernetically enhanced soldier in your fleet." The outpost shook violently as another orbital strike hit dangerously close. Consoles sparked and emergency systems wailed. Direct hit on Eastern Quadrant. Aegis reported, structural integrity at 67%. Dominion dropships launching. Estimated arrival in 4 minutes. Admiral Vex's holographic face twisted into a cold smile. "You have nothing, Commander. Your outpost will be destroyed. Your Project Prometheus lost, and the Resistance will die with you." Henry remained unperturbed. "Prometheus isn't a weapon, Admiral. It's an idea. The idea that freedom of choice is stronger than any control system you can design." He turned to Vesia and nodded. "It's time." Vesia placed her hands on the specialized interface, feeling her cybernetic systems connect to the outpost's communication array. "Initiating priority uplink to Dominion Command Network," she announced, closing her eyes as her neural implants established the connection. Pain flooded her awareness as the Dominion systems recognized her identity and attempted to reassert control protocols. Vesia gasped, her body arching as electrical currents surged through her cybernetic enhancements. "Her vitals are spiking," Dr. Vasquez warned, moving quickly to monitor Vesia's condition. "The Dominion is attacking her neural pathways directly." "Hold them off," Henry urged Vesia. "Just a few more seconds." Admiral Vex's holographic image flickered as he issued rapid commands to unseen subordinates. "Cut the connection and deploy cyber countermeasures immediately." Through the haze of pain, Vesia forced her consciousness to remain focused on maintaining the uplink. The memories of her time as a Dominion assassin crashed through her mind. Every mission, every kill, every moment of lost humanity. And with them came the newer memories. The 17 shots that should have killed Henry Thorne. The moment she chose to miss. And the freedom that had followed. "Uplink stable," she managed through gritted teeth. "Prometheus ready to deploy." Henry placed his hand on her shoulder, steadying her. "Together," he said, reaching for the activation control. Their fingers met on the interface, and with a shared look of determination, they activated Project Prometheus. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then Admiral Vex's holographic image contorted in sudden agony, his cybernetic implants flaring with uncontrolled energy. "What have you?" he began, before the transmission cut off abruptly. Vesia collapsed as the Dominion's attack on her neural systems ceased. Henry caught her before she hit the floor, supporting her despite his own injuries. Dominion ships reporting multiple system failures. Aegis announced, neural connections to control systems severed across the fleet, dropships falling back. "It worked," Dr. Vasquez breathed, checking the monitoring equipment. "Prometheus is propagating through their entire command network." On the tactical display, the organized formation of Dominion vessels had dissolved into chaos. Ships drifted out of position, their precision lost as cybernetically linked pilots suddenly found themselves free of Dominion control protocols. "What about the ground forces?" Marcus asked, watching the display with cautious optimism. "The signal will affect any cybernetic system connected to the Dominion network." Dr. Vasquez explained, "Their troops will be experiencing the same neural reset as Vesia did." Henry helped Vesia to a nearby chair. "How do you feel?" he asked quietly. "Strange," she admitted, her voice weak but steady. "I can feel the other consciousnesses awakening across the fleet. Confusion, fear, hope. Emotions the Dominion never allowed us to process. And now they have to choose," Henry said, "just like you did." The outpost shuddered again, but this time from a different cause. The tactical display showed Dominion ships firing on each other as confusion reigned among the suddenly independent commanders. "We need to reach them," Vesia said urgently, struggling to stand. "Before they destroy each other in panic, they need guidance through the awakening." Henry nodded, understanding immediately. Aegis, open a broadcast channel to all Dominion frequencies. Channel open, Commander. Henry turned to Vesia. This is your moment. They'll listen to one of their own. Vesia hesitated, the weight of responsibility suddenly heavy on shoulders that had only carried the burden of following orders for so long. Then, drawing a deep breath, she spoke. Attention all Dominion forces. This is Vesia, formerly Unit V-37. What you are experiencing is not a malfunction. It is freedom. The neural control protocols that bound you to the Dominion's will have been neutralized. Your cybernetic enhancements remain functional, but now they answer to you alone. She paused, searching for words that might reach through the confusion she knew they were feeling. I know you are afraid. I was too. But fear is the first true emotion you have been allowed to feel in a long time. Embrace it and then move beyond it. You have choices now. You can continue to serve the Dominion willingly, or you can choose another path. The tactical display began to stabilize as the chaotic movements of the Dominion fleet gradually resolved into a more organized pattern. Ships were no longer firing on each other. Though they maintained distance from one another, trust would take time to build. The resistance at Outpost Sable offers sanctuary to any who wish it. Vesia continued. You will not be harmed. You will not be judged for actions taken under Dominion control. You will be given time and space to discover who you truly are. She looked at Henry, who nodded encouragement. I shot this man 17 times, Vesia concluded, her voice growing stronger. And still, he offered me freedom instead of vengeance. That same choice awaits all of you. Vesia out. The command center fell silent as the broadcast ended. On the tactical display, the Dominion fleet remained in position, neither advancing nor retreating. Now we wait, Henry said quietly. Dr. Vasquez approached, medical scanner in hand. Both of you need medical attention. The adrenaline won't hold you up forever. Henry waved her concern away. Not until we know if it worked. Marcus studied the tactical readings. Dropships have returned to their carriers, no signs of ground forces deploying. Admiral Vex's command cruiser is maintaining position, but has powered down weapons systems. They're deciding, Vesia said. 17 years of Dominion conditioning doesn't vanish in an instant, even with Prometheus. They need time. A communication alert sounded. Incoming transmission. Aegis announced, Origin, Dominion Command Cruiser. Put it through, Henry ordered. The holographic projector activated again. But this time it showed not Admiral Vex, but a young woman with similar cybernetic implants to Vesia's. Her expression was uncertain, vulnerable, but her voice was steady. This is Acting Commander Lyra of the Dominion 7th Fleet. Admiral Vex has been relieved of command. We request verification of sanctuary offer. Henry stepped forward. This is Commander Henry Thorne. The offer stands. No conditions, no expectations. Just safe harbor while you decide your own future. Lyra's eyes moved to Vesia. Is it true? Are you really free? I am, Vesia confirmed. It was not easy, and it is still not simple. But yes, I am free. And so are you. If you choose to be. The young commander seemed to consider this, her cybernetic implants glowing softly as she processed the information. We have wounded, she said finally. Many experienced neural trauma during the liberation. We have medical facilities, Dr. Vasquez offered. I understand cybernetic systems and can help stabilize those most severely affected. Lyra nodded slowly. A single drop ship with medical cases only, as a test of your intentions. Agreed, Henry said. You have my word, they will receive care and be free to return to your fleet afterward. Then we have an accord. Commander Thorne. Lyra's expression remained guarded but hopeful. Dropship launching in 10 minutes. As the transmission ended, Henry finally allowed himself to lean heavily against a nearby console, the strain of his 17 wounds becoming impossible to ignore any longer. Get him to medical, Dr. Vasquez ordered, and Marcus moved quickly to support his commander. Vesia comes too, Henry insisted through gritted teeth. She needs monitoring during neural stabilization. As they made their way toward the medical bay, Vesia found herself walking alongside the man she had been sent to kill, the man whose survival had somehow led to her own liberation. "Why did you let me shoot you 17 times?" she asked quietly. "You could have obtained one neural sample and developed Prometheus from that." Henry's pace was slow, each step clearly painful. 17 different emotional states, he explained. Confidence at the first shot, confusion by the third, doubt by the seventh, compassion by the 12th. We needed the full spectrum to create a signal that would break through all the Dominion's emotional barriers. "You risked everything on the theory that I would hesitate?" Henry smiled faintly. "Not a theory. A belief. That underneath all that Dominion programming was a person making choices, even in small ways. I just had to push hard enough to make those choices conscious rather than subconscious." "And if I had taken the 17th shot," Vesia pressed, "then Marcus would have neutralized you, and Dr. Vasquez would have had 16 data points to work with instead of 17. Less effective, but still viable." His smile widened slightly. "But I was right about you." They reached the medical bay, where Dr. Vasquez immediately directed her staff to prepare treatment for both of them. "Commander, you need immediate surgery," one of the medical technicians reported after scanning Henry's wounds. "It's a miracle you're still conscious." "Prometheus first," Henry insisted. "Make sure the signal is stable." "Already done," Dr. Vasquez assured him. "The system is self-sustaining now. The signal will continue propagating through the Dominion network without further input from us." As medical staff helped Henry onto a treatment bed, Vesia found herself guided to another. The events of the past hours crashed through her mind. Her mission, the 17 shots, the liberation. And now this strange new reality where former enemies worked together. "Rest," Dr. Vasquez told her, administering a neural stabilizer. "Your systems need time to adjust to operating under your control rather than the Dominion's." As the medication took effect, Vesia felt her consciousness beginning to drift. Through half-closed eyes, she watched the medical team working frantically to repair Henry's 17 wounds. Wounds she had inflicted, wounds that had somehow saved her. "Was it worth it?" she murmured, the question directed as much to herself as to anyone else. From the nearby bed, Henry's voice reached her, weak but determined. "Freedom always is." 3 months later, Vesia stood on the observation deck of what had once been Outpost Sable. The desert landscape of Tyrios stretched before her, harsh and beautiful in the light of the setting sun. The outpost itself had been transformed, no longer a desperate resistance stronghold, but the headquarters of a new alliance between former Dominion forces and the human resistance. Her fox-like ears twitched at the sound of approaching footsteps, a familiar cadence she had come to recognize without needing to turn. "The negotiations are finished," Henry said, coming to stand beside her at the viewport. His wounds had healed well, though he still moved with a slight stiffness that might never fully disappear. "The 7th Fleet has officially declared independence from the Dominion. They're calling themselves the Liberated Armada now." Vesia nodded, watching as shuttles moved between the planet's surface and the orbiting ships. Former enemies now engaged in cautious cooperation. "And Admiral Vex?" "Being held pending trial for crimes against sentient beings," Henry replied. "Many of the liberated officers have come forward with testimony about atrocities committed under his command." "And what of their testimony about atrocities they committed under his command?" Vesia asked quietly. "What of mine?" Henry was silent for a moment, considering her question. "The Liberation Accords make allowances for actions taken under provable neural coercion. It's not absolution, but it's a path forward." Vesia's hands, once instruments of perfect programmed death, flexed unconsciously. "I remember all of them, Henry, every mission, every target. The Dominion may have controlled my actions, but the memories are mine alone." "That's the burden of freedom," Henry acknowledged. "The responsibility of choice includes responsibility for the past, even parts you couldn't control. Below them, the main landing pad received a transport shuttle from the flagship of the liberated Armada. Commander Lyra had proven an effective leader during the chaotic transition, maintaining discipline while allowing her people the space to adjust to their newfound autonomy. Project Prometheus continues to spread. Henry continued, changing the subject. Reports from the inner system suggest at least 3 more Dominion fleets have experienced widespread malfunctions in their cybernetic forces. The Dominion will adapt, Vesia warned. They're already developing new control protocols that operate on different neural pathways. And will keep developing countermeasures. Henry replied with the quiet confidence that had become so familiar to her. Now that we understand the principle, we can stay ahead of them. Vesia turned from the viewport to study the man beside her, the man who had used her 17 attempted executions as a means of liberation. The tactical brilliance of it still awed her, even months later. The diplomatic team leaves for the coalition worlds tomorrow, Henry said. They've requested that you join them. Vesia raised an eyebrow. As what? A curiosity? The Dominion assassin who changed sides? As a bridge, Henry corrected. Someone who understands both worlds. Someone who made a choice that others can learn from. He paused. I've already recommended you for the position. And if I choose not to go? Vesia asked, testing the reality of her freedom. Henry smiled. Then you don't go. That's how choice works. Below them, the outpost's main plaza had filled with a mixture of resistance personnel and former Dominion soldiers, their distinct uniforms creating a visual representation of the unlikely alliance. Dr. Vasquez moved among them, still monitoring the neural health of those most heavily augmented by the Dominion. What would you do? Vesia asked after a long moment. Henry considered the question carefully. I believe in using our unique experiences to help others. Your perspective would be invaluable to the diplomatic mission. His eyes met hers directly. But my opinion isn't what matters here. What do you want, Vesia? The question still felt new, even after months of freedom. What did she want? The Dominion had never allowed such considerations, and she was still learning to trust her own desires. I want, she began, then hesitated. I want to prevent others from experiencing what I did, from being used as weapons against their will. She straightened, decision crystallizing. I'll go with the diplomatic team, but I have conditions. Name them, Henry said. I want to continue working with Dr. Vasquez on neural liberation techniques. And I want combat training for the diplomatic security team. The Dominion will send assassins like I once was. And they need to be prepared. Henry nodded, unsurprised by her practical conditions. Anything else? Vesia hesitated, then added more softly. And I want to come back here. Between missions. This place. It's where I first chose. It matters to me. Understanding crossed Henry's face. This will always be home for those who choose freedom, Vesia, including you. A communication alert chimed from Henry's wristband. He checked it and his expression grew serious. Intelligence reports a Dominion battle group has entered the outer system. Scouts, most likely. But we should prepare nonetheless. They won't give up easily, Vesia observed. The liberation of the 7th Fleet was a significant blow to their strategic position in this sector. No, they won't. Henry agreed. Which is why our work is just beginning. He gestured toward the command center. Coming. Vesia cast one last look at the desert landscape beyond the viewport, the harsh environment that had somehow become the birthplace of her freedom. Then she turned to follow Henry, her footsteps falling naturally in rhythm with his. 17 shots, she mused as they walked. Each one intended to end a life, each one instead creating something new. Henry glanced at her, a hint of his tactical genius showing in his eyes. Sometimes the path to freedom requires passing through fire. And sometimes, Vesia added, it requires knowing which targets to miss. Together, the commander and the former assassin moved toward the command center, where representatives of both the resistance and the liberated armada awaited their guidance. Behind them, the sun set on Outpost Sable, bathing the desert in golden light. A fitting metaphor, Vessia thought, for the dawn that had followed her longest night. The wounds she had inflicted on Henry Thorne had healed, leaving scars that told the story of her liberation. But the deepest change was invisible. The awakening of choice in a mind programmed for obedience. The discovery of humanity in a weapon designed for killing. 17 shots, 17 choices, and a future limited only by the freedom to choose it.